And so probably so irradiated he's peeling the fucking paint off the bottom of this truck.
Probably.
Yeah.
Little, piece by piece, I take back what's been stolen from me. Little by little, piece by
Yes, hello. Welcome to the Place of Wrath and Tears, the Red Intermission, episode 5. We are coming towards the end of the intermission. This is the third to last episode.
Yes.
Yeah. There are 3 episodes left. That is more clear. And so we are going to be coming to some of the heights and the depths of the story. And
it's going to get weird.
It's going to get real fucking weird. And we are going to prepare. We are going to both narratively and in story prepare the way for the return of the Van Horsts. I started an extremely long conversation with them this week, and it looks like it's going to go the way I want it to. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, and I would honestly, frankly, if you use a calendar that just does repeating events, I just put this Sunday in your calendar for a while. There we go. I moved. It's my fault, Curtis. I'm sorry. I'm bad at everything. So I know it's okay. Another Quaalude, it'll love me in the morning, and so. Yeah, so I just very exciting things. I haven't even, we have only yet begun to weird. So, yeah, don't go anywhere. So, I think that's pretty much it in terms of logistics. We're playing KULT Divinity Lost. We are using the Red Lady hack of the KULT Divinity Lost book that I think someone's going to mug me and make me write down with grammar and context and formatting and stuff.
You keep promising to do that. Like you're going to mug yourself.
I know. Well, if I don't say it out loud, then I won't create production pressure. And since public shame is the most powerful motivator of all,
now we're getting dark even for KULT.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Also, I imagine that sometime in the next, I don't know, handful of weeks or sometime shortly after the Red Lady, the Red Intermission is done, we're probably going to have an AMA.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So like no plans, no time plan for that. It might be recorded. It might be live. But if you ever have a question you wanted us to ask that we didn't get a chance to answer randomly, write it down and put a little pin through it and wrap some thin red yarn around it and connect it to another pin, because those are the ones that you remember the bestest.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I am Ben. This is Samara.
It's me.
She plays
Samara.
the Red Lady, and I play David. And so we're going to kind of flip it a little bit tonight, because Samara is actually going to be taking on an amount of the storytelling for the evening, because of the piece of the story is being told as a more David-focused story. So, and there's a pretty long dissertation on this whole like 2-person sharing storytelling and character roles structure that we've organically made that I really, really like. But
collaborative storytelling is rad, y'all.
Collaborative storytelling is fucking rad. All right, so I do not feel like there are any additional content warnings.
Nuclear terribleness and the things that come from nukes that happen to people and animals, I think is the big one.
Yes. Yeah, the general atomic body horror.
Yeah.
The mushroom
That's
cloud-shaped umbrella that is.
way of saying that.
And there is also going to be some amount of acupuncture body horror. So it'll be brief, though. It's not going to be a major part. So that'll happen kind of in the beginning of the episode, and then we're going to move on. So if that's not your jive, just, I don't know, go make some pizza rolls. By the time they're done, you'll be okay. Now I want pizza rolls because I'm a fat ass. Oh, no.
My whole marriage is based on pizza rolls. This is true. I got him pizza rolls as the wedding present, like the day before our wedding. It's a whole thing.
And you're telling the truth. I know you are.
Oh 100%. Absolutely. Like when I say our marriage is based on pizza rolls, that's not even an exaggeration. We both fucking love pizza rolls. They come up a lot.
It's a pizza roll based economy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going to happen, when the world ends and the bombs fall and the climate collapses. It's just going to be me with a cooler and pizza rolls trying to make it up to England.
Yeah. You just like one big bag of Totinos, like, at least we got this. Through the Fallout 4 wasteland that is my backyard.
Yeah. Oof. Anyway, we should probably play some KULT. So,
seriously though, the Salem Witch Museum in Fallout 4 is a direct pixel by pixel recreation of the real one that's very near my house, and it's super cool and I love it. There's no Deathclaw in the real life one though, as far as I know.
That's some
also
bullshit.
Spoilers for Fallout 4 if you haven't played the Salem Witch Museum part yet. There's a Deathclaw in there. Also a lot of creepy mannequins, which do exist in the real one. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Next thing you're going to tell me that the Dunwich boring isn't real either.
I say nothing.
Okay.
All right.
So, last game ended with the most on-trope fade to black of all time.
There were two beds. They were in fact roommates.
Mm-hmm.
Hungry roommates.
Hungry roommates, yes.
But now we come up a couple days later.
Yeah, I was about to say, how long do you think the preparations take? So
I think it's been about 2 days. 3 days, because they need to go in a couple different directions to pick up the various supplies.
Okay. Sundries,
yes.
So how much trouble do you think the hardware store gave them after all of that mayhem?
Oh, that poor lady. I think the Red Lady sent David in to deal with that, since he already has a rapport with her, and really it was him who fucked up in the beginning.
Yep, absolutely. He once again makes Matthew very proud and just throws money at it.
Oh yeah. Even though the Red Lady did already pay for everything, like we're going double, triple. It's kind of like an apology.
He's like, it's the closest they'll ever get.
Yeah.
So it'll work. So what are we building, Red Lady?
Well, we get all the things, and then we have to go back up to her home to gather some things from there. Then we go back to St. Dimphna's, and we start building a frame for the lighthouse.
Okay.
And that takes some time and that takes some effort because it is not only hammers and nails, but then it is also eldritch things and incantations and candles and sigil work and all that. And when that seems mostly completed, then they have to potentially rent a flatbed, if you could do that in the 50s, to go get the lens itself from our dear friend, the Lady Radium.
I don't know if you could rent a flat. We can make it happen. Somebody would take money to drive somewhere and pick up a thing and drive back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would, of course, have to stay in the car or else they might melt.
Yeah.
Radium wouldn't mind, but, we're doing our best here.
Yeah. There's some prophylactic euthanasia.
Yeah. That sounds so nice.
So, yeah.
And so we get a giant ass Fresnel lens, like fully lighthouse sized, is big. And we load it up onto the flatbed and take it to St. Dimphna's.
Yeah. So David, when he builds things, is very much one of these wood is cheap, repairs are not. So he's very much just like a stability via gravity kind of builder.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's just like, well, we're just going to put 2 crossbars over here and we're going to do this. And just everything is exceedingly stable, albeit probably too big and probably, over-engineered. But
yeah, it looks a bit much. It's certainly,
it is a bit much.
It's a lot sturdier looking than the Red Lady might do if she was doing this on her own. But after a certain point, she's like, you know what? Sure. This is weirdly satisfying to you. So go ahead, make your measurements, measure thrice, cut once, make your big sturdy thing. It doesn't matter how much to me. I do the bloodletting and the candle lighting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where the truck driver goes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dear Radium, please irradiate the truck driver on his way home.
Thank you.
We need more leukemia.
That's the good blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, we say terrible things on this show.
We do. It's so nice. So I think that probably this is, at least from my perspective, I feel like this would be one of the first times in this arc where David and the Red Lady actually have good teamwork.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a little while to get the rhythm figured out. But after a certain point, she lets him build and then finds the right points to fill in the cracks and gaps with magic. And by the end of it, it still looks like the backside of a theater flat. Like, it's still a lot of raw wood with a lot of scribbles on it. Although usually on the back of a theater flat, it's notes about who's coming in next and parts of the script stuck on and a prop list. And in this case, it's strange languages and cuneiform and things like that. But it will do its job. And this big-ass Fresnel lens sits in it like it was meant to be there.
Yeah.
Beautiful green tinged glass. Like, glass that thick looks kind of green anyway, but this looks green. This is unnaturally green, even to David's eyes.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably still got a little bit of the inclusions and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
So I think we can probably go into like real time as the lens sets into place and as we kind of do that last little bit of...
Yeah, we can go out of our building montage.
Yeah. I don't know what you call it in the building, but I imagine like putting the gem in the setting is the action that comes to mind.
Yeah.
You know, putting it in place and then putting a few don't go anywheres around it.
Yes. Yeah, that's what those are called, right?
Yeah.
The don't go anywheres.
Yes, that's the technical term.
Yeah, and they both stand back and they take a look at it. I think they do that, like, two workers, like, fold your arms, like,
Yeah.
Good. Now that that's finished, we need to calibrate it.
What do you mean we need to calibrate it?
You have to calibrate any machine. We have to make sure it can see where it needs to see.
You're not going to make me turn this, are you?
No. No.
Okay.
I need you to go set the calibration markers.
Okay. Yeah. And why is it not that easy?
Well, firstly, I need to stay here and watch and make sure they're set in the right places. Second, I need you to go to the proving grounds.
There it is.
That's where the
Okay.
illusion is thinnest. That's where we have the easiest chance of breaking through.
I know you're not wrong. I just don't like it. So,
Naturally.
all right. So what do I need to do? Do I need to set up like a survey line and take measurements? Are we talking about?
After a fashion, yes. I need you to take those. And she points over to a valise that she got from her home that is filled with, because you saw her filling it up, uranium glass teacups. It's about a dozen of them. I need you to take those and take them to the proving grounds and put them in the ground at certain points. And I will use those as, she looks for the right word, my compass points. If I can see all of them through the lens, then I'll be able to shoot true.
Okay. So are they testing today?
I don't think so, but I'll double check.
David's face goes on a journey of that, like, she would have killed me yesterday if she was going to kill me. At this point, I figure she's probably not going to plan to kill me. And it would be really stupid to invest all this energy into this and then nuke me. Yeah. Probably. Okay.
And she's reading his face like a book and just letting him go.
Yeah.
Now, here's the part you're not going to like.
Oh, finally, we get to the part I don't like.
Well, we need to be in communication for this to work.
Okay. So you've got some... You want me to put a radio in the car?
No, I want to put a radio in you.
There is no next sentence you're going to say that I'm going to be happy about.
Correct.
Okay.
I understand that. Work with me. And she, out of another bag, one that she got from Radiums, she takes out what kind of looks like a watch box and opens it and takes out a very long, thin, like very, very, very thin, almost an acupuncture needle that is glowing the same kind of green that the uranium glass in her house does.
What are you going to do? Pin a fucking moth to me?
I'm going
You're
to
not gonna pin a moth to me.
I'm going to connect you to the lens, and I will be able to speak to you through it. I'll be able to see through the lens, but this will allow us to communicate. I can take it out when we're done.
You can take it out. So what you're telling me is you need to put it in.
Yes. Ideally in your ear.
Look, I have only so many holes, and I don't like the idea of that going in any of them.
David's hunter killer, please. As I'm sure you have learned at this point, if there was another way, I would go with that. But unfortunately, there isn't. We're not in the right time for any sort of instant communication. Certainly mundane. Someday there might be, but not today.
Okay. So what are you going to do with it?
I'm going to put it in your ear.
You don't mean like an ear piercing, do you?
I do not.
Okay.
It would be easier if you shed your skin.
All right. All right, fine. Fuck it. Okay. And he crumbles up the 15th bag of like pork rinds that he's eaten that day because he's still running off the junk food purchase for the Unbethany. Then kind of throws it into a pile along with everything else. And sits down on probably the pile of extra wood that he has turned into what is essentially his break chair.
You got to take your breaks.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And he sits down. Okie dokie. How about you put a needle in my ear?
And she waits another split second, hoping vainly that he'll shed the illusion and let her do it to the metal exoskeleton. But no, still got to deal with flesh. And so...
Actually, I think he does. Because
really?
on sheer puckishness, I decided to roll 2d10 just to see like a keep it together roll.
Oh, okay.
And I rolled a 20.
Oh, sure.
So I feel like the dice have spoken.
Okay.
Thus spake Dicathustra, and it's gonna be a long night, Tater. And so yeah, he sits down and he shuts his eyes, and you've seen someone go into a meditative state, and this is clearly the process that David probably for the first time does consciously and on purpose. Is it looks meditative because he sits down and he shuts his eyes and he lets out a very slow breath. But people that know Dear David would probably recognize something closer to a managed dissociation. Like he's doing a bad thing in a vaguely controlled manner. But when he does, it starts with his eyes where they start to shine and reflect, and then it kind of works its way out from his face and down under his clothes.
I imagine it's
And
almost that like face splitting and opening and shuffling away
from Total
like
Recall.
Ghost in the Shell. Oh, it's like this Total Recall, yes.
Yeah. Probably.
Like the illusion neatly packing itself away.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So yeah,
the Red Lady
he kind of
fucking thrilled. He's got his eyes closed and he's doing his dissociation thing, so she's not making any noise. But if someone was looking at her, she would gleeful. Just giddy that this is the thing he's finally goddamn doing.
It's probably not good for him, though.
No, probably not. But she takes that very thin needle made of uranium glass, and she very carefully leans forward and slides it into the opening on the side of his metallic skull. And there is like almost into a socket. Like it's a piece that it's a modular piece that can be added to the hole.
Yeah. The sound is like the sound of a broken phonograph. There's definitely an acoustic nature to it, of that kind of that sound of glass on metal.
Yes.
And he makes the gagging noise that someone makes when like the doctor puts stuff too far in your ear. That just kind of like, I don't like that sensation. And he makes it. But he does keep himself still. Yeah.
And it takes a few seconds. It's not a quick process. It's very slow, very careful. But it goes all the way in.
Yeah. He twitches.
It's not a short needle.
No.
In fact,
and
there's almost like too long. Like to the point where it kind of looks like it should come out the other side, but it doesn't.
Yes. And I think that probably what the Red Lady picks up from David in that moment is one of the things he's doing is he's going, don't think about how long the needle is.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about how long the needle is, you're going to do math and you're going to think it's in your brain. And if you think it's in your brain, you're going to have a meltdown.
Yeah. You need to not think about your squishy human brain right now, my dude. You need to not do that.
Yes.
Remembering you have a squishy human brain is not going to help this situation.
No, that actually will not.
Yeah. And she steps back. And she goes, all done.
All right.
Assuming his face is settling back into place.
Yeah, he's just, when he starts coming back, you can see immediately the micro expressions and everything else firing back up. And he kind of looks around and what he is doing, Red Lady, is he is trying to figure out in which direction he will look to talk. Like he's trying to create the physical association with a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so he takes a moment and he looks up and he goes, radio check, 1, 2, 3.
She will, and we have a cat. Hello. I'm sure the tail will come across the screen in a second. There it is. She goes over, and it's a weirdly physical gesture considering the magical nature of this thing, but she goes to the back of the lens and looks like she's looking through it. I mean, it's bigger than she is, and she's not small. And so she's looking through somewhere in the top half of it. but her
Mhm.
concentration on it is like loud and clear.
Does he hear that in his head?
He does.
Oh,
Which
I don't
is
like that
probably
at all.
even worse because now he's hearing her in two places. And the only thing worse than one
Yeah.
red lady voice is two.
He doesn't like it.
No.
He says, all right, well, that's a bad echo. That is a bad echo.
Well,
And that's going to go away once you're not next to me.
yes, correct. It is not a science. It is, in fact, quite far from science. But it will get better. You'll get used to it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you look at, if you listen to like Dimension X and everything, I guess you could probably say that, where does science we don't understand yet stop and magic start,
Of course.
Right? If it's repeatable, if you can apply the scientific method to it, it's science.
That is
Just because your lab coat's all black and embroidered and, comes with chanting, that doesn't mean that it's not a lab coat.
That is very human of you.
But you're not saying no.
It is a concept as ancient as humanity, that what is not understood is magic, and what is understood is science. Making one somehow lesser than the other.
You can't worship something you understand.
Indeed.
You worship the mystery. You don't. Yeah. You got to put it all behind a curtain, stuff it in a box.
And yet now there are those who worship science. For better or worse.
But even then, do they really worship science, or do they worship access to mystery?
Well, they worship that part of science they do not understand. Look at these nuclear devotees. They barely have the slightest grasp of what they're doing, and the layman certainly doesn't. And so it becomes an object of worship.
I guess. You'd really think there'd be more atomic churches.
You would, wouldn't you? Maybe there will be.
I mean, well, you set it off. You've got the pillar of fire by night and the pillar of smoke by day. You've pretty much got it.
Give it time.
I should set a timer. I need to get an egg timer. See,
until
Electra,
I say
I need to get an egg timer because
you.
No, that makes me nervous. Mystified is the beginning. I need to start an egg timer so that I know that we can have exactly a 2.5 minute conversation, and then I need to shut the fuck up before you do something that's going to keep me from falling asleep. I need an egg timer. I'm getting an egg timer when I'm out.
That sounds very reasonable, yes.
Yeah, very reasonable.
Now, it's just about sundown, so you will have the greatest chance of gaining entry undetected.
Yeah. Well, they won't find me. They don't point radar at the ground.
No.
They won't be able to see me.
I know.
I guess the only question I have at this point is like Darjeeling or Earl Grey.
Ooh, Earl Grey.
Okay. And if I'm going to have a tea party, I'm going to have tea.
I always recommend Earl Grey. Have you ever had a London fog? They're delicious.
I was in London one time, but what do you...
It's a drink with Earl Grey, vanilla syrup, and steamed milk. Simply divine.
All right. Sounds like somebody oversweetened and overmilked their tea and tried to make it look like they did it on purpose.
Perhaps. But I can't say I'm displeased with the result. Now,
No.
you'll need that trowel. You'll need that valise. Yes. And she goes over to, and this is still the pediatric foyer that they have converted into this big workspace. And she goes around the central nurses station to a set of cabinets that she has slowly been filling with things that she might need, more esoteric and weird shit and candy bars. And she takes out a sextant. I assume you know how to use one of these. Ben found a prop.
Yeah, I don't know why I have a sextant, but there is a sextant in my basement. I have an equal number of concerns and questions. But yeah, I guess. I think I know how to use this, or at least I can use it enough.
Perfect.
It's close enough. Yeah, sure. Why not? Why the hell not? Sure. Why not?
Perfect. Make your way in, preferably close-ish to the front gate, and we'll start near the closest pigsty. Yes, that is what I said.
Okay. I am going to abjectly refuse to do this if you tell me I have to deal with pig shit.
No, of course not. They're just useful space markers.
Okay. Because have you ever smelled that? Pig shit in the wild?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Knew a guy's pig farm blew up. Yeah, it's chemical reactions that can start getting pretty interesting. Anyway, so.
You'll have to tell me that story when you get back.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so let's go have a tea party.
Drive safe.
I always do. So David heads upstairs with a valise full of teacups and a gardener's trowel and a sextant, and has a moment to meditate on how weird his life has become. It's just like, well, I'm going out here. I'm gonna go. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out to an atomic test site, and I'm gonna fucking put teacups in the ground because it's Tuesday.
I feel like every interaction David and the Red Lady has is that John Mulaney bit where he goes, "You want me to do what?"
Yes.
Just over and over every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it a nice drive at least?
If I had more technical skill, I would now want to do a bunch of John Mulaney quotes and clips, like just make like a reaction montage. Anyway, sorry, I just drank too much coffee, so now it's starting to work. So. All right.
Yeah, is it a nice drive at least? Does he listen to the radio?
Oh, he listens to the radio. Like David has a really distinct weakness for like mid 40s, like Tennessee Ford, and all of those. Like he loves that like the bass to basso to like low tenor voices, because he's not a very good singer at all. Like there is no David in him that was ever really a very good singer. He has no either physiological or real memories to draw on for being a good singer, but he has enthusiasm. So he's definitely the person that is driving down the road with the music too loud, just causing endless psychological damage to all of the dogs and cats that he drives past.
Yeah, there's no better time to sing along too loud. It's that and in the shower.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's generally in a good mood, I think. It's I think a lot of it is what has is that kind of like he's mentally acclimatized to a higher level of weird, which is something he was acclimatizing to around the Van Horsts, and now the Red Lady just like made him do it way too fast.
Yeah, she's ratcheted it up pretty severely.
Yeah, and I think that he's just at this point he's made some kind of an amount of peace with it, so he's just like, all right, fine, fuck it. I'm going to go bury teacups in the ground. It is not the weirdest thing I've done in my life. It is better than wrapping the severed but still beating human heart in my hoagie wrapper.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he is... he still has something that could be considered a grudge about that.
Look, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Because the thing he never told the Van Horst is that he absolutely threw the hoagie away that was inside it.
Oh, no. Oh, there's the real tragedy.
Yeah, so he's just been sitting here being like, I will kill for you, but you owe me a grinder.
You made me waste a perfectly good hoagie. It's like Birds of Prey. It's Harley with her bacon, egg, and cheese.
Yeah.
I'm just full of pop culture references today. So what's the Proving Grounds like at night?
Well, the Proving Grounds as a location is fucking immense. It is lots and lots and lots and lots of space. And it is pretty aggressively patrolled. I mean, it's just fences, guys, and jeeps, but it's...
Because, who in their right mind would want to go out there?
Yeah, it's like the buildings are heavily patrolled. I'm sure that there's some amount of I mean, there's fences and warnings and warning, live nuclear testing. Not only will this kill you, it will hurt the whole time you are dying.
No, seriously. Caution.
Yeah. This machine cannot differentiate between metal and flesh, nor does it care.
It really doesn't.
Well, one way or the other, David is, as he's been called several times, dozens of times now at this point, cat.
He needs to be held. It's very important.
I understand. He's either going to be held or he's going to walk on the keyboard, and frankly, I would rather you just cuddle him.
Yeah, she is baby and she needs to be held, but she may chew on my microphone cable, so we might be naughty.
Okay. So David is a hunter killer underneath everything. He is a pursuit predator made out of tank parts. So he does have an amount of capability for being obscenely sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that David does that's uncomfortable about it,
aside from the act of doing it.
Yeah. aside from the act of
in and of
doing it.
itself pretty creepy.
Yeah, is that when he wants to get somewhere, he selects the place he wants to be and travels towards it. And things kind of just work out. Yeah, if Michael Myers could instinctually manipulate the illusion, that's what David is doing. David is doing the Michael Myers stalk, except no one watches him go through the fence.
He just somehow is. Is there any damage to the fence when he gets to the other side? Okay, bye.
Actually, I should probably roll to see if that's a complication. See if he fucks it up.
Look at David rolling dice. So exciting.
Rolling dice. Well, I rolled a 16. I rolled a 16 about it.
All right, you're good.
And yeah, and his magic's like a 2, but it's still over a 15.
I'm impressed that he has even a 2.
Yeah. Oh, it was a 1 at the beginning. He's like, I went to blood magic class. I graduated first in blood magic.
I disarticulated a Bethany.
Yeah. Oof.
I mean, that's the way
really
to advance in your blood magic.
This would make a really good comic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
We will speak later to people who have artistic skills. So when he gets around to the first pigsty, which really is just a little fence holding a bunch of pigs in it, it's nothing exciting. It's weird, but he can see more in the distance. And like, there are several of those in the proving grounds, as well as buildings and vehicles and other things that need to be tested for nuclear fallout. And he hears in his ear, as if she is standing at his shoulder and just talking at him in a very comfortable, normal volume. At the southeastern corner. You need to bury them, maybe a foot deep. Oh, come now, it's not that dramatic.
It's really good reception. It's really good reception. It sounds like you're right next to me. I was expecting a radio.
The miracle of magic science.
Right. Okay. So you said southeast?
Yes.
Okay. Great. And he takes a trowel out and studiously and aggressively avoids any and all refuse, because pig shit is, guys, just don't seek it out in your life. It is a neurology changing smell. It will affect you as a person.
Trafe.
And so David, and so David digs a little hole. And so for the first one, he takes out the teacup, and then he looks back into the bag, and there's a part of him, he doesn't say it out loud, but he looks in there for a saucer. And sees that there isn't one, and mumbles something, just a blisteringly vulgar commentary about teacups without saucers in an incredibly thick brogue. Just offended to the core of his soul that there are teacups, that he is burying teacups absent saucers.
There is no response on the other end of the line. He has no idea if the red lady can hear that.
Yeah. And so for the first one, he very carefully puts it in and makes sure it's facing straight up and down, and puts dirt in it to make sure it sits all the way up and then fills the hole back in. Pat, pat, pat.
Pat, pat, pat.
Yeah. Reaches over, scratches a pig behind the ear.
It snorts.
Can't take you with me. Sorry. Your barbecue tomorrow morning. Yeah.
300 yards northeast, approximately.
How approximately?
I'll let you know when we get there.
Okay. So David uses the compass portion of his sextant and does the appropriate land nav math, which Ben doesn't even know. Like, I did not get that merit badge. And makes his way to the next location.
It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, there is a very blown out building nearby-ish that was once a one-room shack and now has no window glass or no anything. So it's...
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. No specific location, but apparently it's important. And once he gets there, she gives him a couple extra instructions, like actually 10 paces this way. And then that's the spot.
And he does. This is clearly not David's first survey rodeo, because he does seem to have a fairly good, whatever, the sense for angles and measurements and dimensions on the scale. He seems to have a fairly good mind for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going pretty efficiently.
Yeah, the third and fourth are, it's kind of a zigzaggy formation widening outward. And at that point, she starts using the instructions that he would need to use a sextant for, rather than just like 50 yards that way. Samara doesn't know them either because she was only a brownie. But we will assume that David knows how to use a sextant better than both of us combined.
Yeah. And he does, and he does the appropriate calculations and kind of does the appropriate math, and he starts and he continues to do the job. Let's see how good he does the job, because I like rolling dice. David makes some critical error.
Oh.
Yeah, because I rolled a 9 about it.
Ooh, what does he do?
I don't know. I think probably he Oh, you know what? Let's do what we talked about. So he is trudging through and he has made a comment about how funny the air feels. A couple times, and that kind of we don't really know how radiation works yet. Somewhere over yonder, John Wayne is filming Genghis Khan.
What a piece of shit.
And signing the death warrants of pretty much everyone that worked on that movie, including himself.
Yeah.
So
he was great.
So
yeah, and I think he doesn't know what the clicking noise in the back of his head means, but he is enough machine beyond the illusion to have a Geiger counter somewhere in there.
Yeah, if not a Geiger counter, he is getting some kind of danger message.
Yeah.
But the problem is he's still very much in his illusion, which means that he is starting to get sick. I think, because like his nose is starting to run. He's starting to feel odd.
Yep, that makes sense. If he's still completely in the illusion, yeah. And I think maybe he stumbles at one point and breaks a teacup.
Absolutely, I agree. And there's just like the exhaustion. Oh fuck. Where it's not even just like oh fuck. It's just that like oh I'm too worn down even to be upset by this. I just fuck. And he does. And he kind of thumps down to the ground. on his knees and just very kind of starts pawing the pieces into his hand.
Oh, Davids. It'll still work. Don't feel too bad.
I don't feel very bad. I don't feel good at all.
We'll get you back soon.
Great.
You're nearly at the next location.
Okay. And he definitely forces himself up and takes a minute and kind of shakes it off because he presumes that he's tired. He hasn't known when he's eaten, that like the air's bad because they know that radiation is a danger.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't quite grasped how thorough, that danger is. So
yeah, they're still
like,
very
I
much
wasn't
still
blasted
figuring
by
that
it.
out.
Yeah. So he's.
Because it's
Yeah, so how many
57 right now? 1957?
Yeah.
Okay. So they have started to do studies in Japan of what's going on, but...
Yeah. Don't Google that, folks.
Guess who did that for research for tonight? It's a lot. I knew what I was getting into. It's a lot. Yeah,
but
you gotta be ready for it.
It's a whole lot. Yeah. Glad I didn't.
So yeah, he buries the parts of the teacup at the next place, which is directly under the wheel of a bombed out truck.
Yes.
And then the next one at a further zigzag is closer in towards another pig pen. Pigsty. Pig
I think for
enclosure.
Yeah, on the bombed out truck, he actually like starts digging and then gets impatient and just puts his hand on the frame and just leans the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And just with his other hand digs it out and then puts the pieces in and packs it and just pushes the truck down without ever admitting that he did it.
Of course not.
No. But the thing that the red lady does notice that David is either not noticing or is in denial about, or he's having a nope about it, is that he has left skin on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is sloughed a little bit.
Yeah. If he could see himself in a mirror right now, and it's probably good that pretty much all the glass in the proving ground is totally toast at this point, he might be surprised by what he sees.
Yeah.
And the next location is even further in, even closer to the center.
David takes a seat after the next one, next to the pig pen.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls out his thermos and he drinks whatever water or coffee or whatever he's got in there.
One human alcohol beer.
Ooh. Yes, one earth beer.
Yes.
And he leans back and he goes, I think the last time I ate a real meal was before the dead drop. Should have eaten more than. I think I should have eaten some more. I'm feeling a little light. Oof.
Are you? This is the first time she's spoken in a while of anything that wasn't instructions on where to do the thing.
Yeah, he says, I'm bushed. I am tired. I am going, once I'm done, I think I'm going to take a nap in the car before I drive back. Because I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel.
You don't have to. Davids.
Don't have to take a nap? I'm tired.
You don't have to let this affect you. You can just shrug it off.
What do you mean?
You can
What do you mean shrug it off?
You can just shrug off the illusion. You have the power to do so.
Oh. Yeah. And she sees him lean forward. Her POV is that he leans forward and he puts his hands out and kind of does the crawl to the side of the sty and pulls himself up and leans and catches his breath and says, okay, where's the next place?
And she gives instructions. And it's quite a ways out at this point. If he is cognizant of the layout of the proving grounds, he only has a couple cups left, and it is very close to dead center.
Yeah. He's David doesn't realize that he should be dead.
Yeah.
Like 50 years from now, if David is still around and the world is in a place where he can do the reading on this, he would be reading a paper like on the proving grounds going, that fucking bitch. She knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
So.
But he's not there yet.
No. So a quick pause, because I think I know where the next couple of minutes are going to go. David is going to have what one could call a mental health crisis. Probably is the most a reasonable way to say that. David's going to have a mental health crisis, and it's going to be probably pretty upsetting. So if your headspace probably doesn't consider dealing with David, dealing with the layers of his existence and how he's been trying to ignore several of them, might be a good time for a second plate of pizza rolls.
Yeah.
So
enjoy some pizza rolls.
Yes. So lobster thermidor is the safe word. Pizza rolls are the coping mechanism. That's how it's the evolution of safety with wrath and tears.
Yes. Go get yourself some tasty pizza rolls. They take a few minutes to warm up in the microwave, and then you have to let them sit. You have to bite the little end of it so that some of the heat comes out before you eat it, and then come back.
Yeah. Pizza rolls are American takoyaki. Changed my mind. You eat it the same way. You shove too much of them in your mouth, and you look up and you go.
You do the dragon where you
melt your. Yeah, you try not to melt your teeth out of your head while you eat them, knowing that if you just waited 2 fucking minutes, you'd be fine.
Yeah, but who does that? Cowards?
Not me. Cowards.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So David gets to the next point and probably manages to at least start digging the hole.
Yeah, let's see how he's doing.
Yeah,
Let's do a combat check, because the monster for the monster stats, combat is everything meat based.
Meat based. How is his meat?
Actually pretty good. Randomizing is funny. I rolled a 14 and his combat is a 4. So
he's actually he's succeeding against all the odds.
Yeah.
Which is probably pretty good, because at that point an air siren goes off.
Cool.
Yeah.
David pauses and if you have ever heard someone start having the panic attack breathing, or the legitimate reason to feel abject physiological terror breathing, his breathing picks up and his head is whipping around very quickly. And he is trying to locate the source of the siren, because he also doesn't know what siren that is. Like, is it we found somebody? Is it like it's midnight and all's well? So he
Well, there
whips
don't
his
seem
head
to
around
be
looking.
any searchlights.
No. So he shuts his eyes and he takes a breath and he tries to calm himself. And what the red lady can hear that David is ignoring is the mucosal sound of that breathing. As now, admittedly, this is somewhat cartoonish in that not entirely grounded in reality radiation. We've already identified that atomic weapons do rip holes in the illusion. So, yeah, we're playing a little fast, and we're playing significantly fast and loose with radiation damage for the sake of the story. But he tries to calm his breathing down, and you can hear him listen and kind of calculate and try to figure out what's going on. And then his hearing changes, and because I presume that the red lady is getting an amount of his sensorium, that she's essentially tapped into his senses. His hearing changes.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes crackly for a minute. And then there is a kind of distorted warbling echo of what, actually?
It sounds kind of like a whistle somewhere way off in the distance. And if he were to look up, he would see a shooting star.
Oh.
At a weird angle.
Fuck. Yeah. And I think that's just all David manages to get out, is just a very tired, oh fuck, before ignition.
Yeah.
And David stares directly into the face of an atomic detonation. Pay her back of the house. Yeah, you take it, Samara. What has happened, or what's the environment around David?
Yeah. The world goes kind of purple.
Okay.
A color that's not seen in nature, that's not normally seen by the human eye. It's one of those indigo, violet, ultraviolet. It is a color that is wrong. And it lights up everything. And what David sees in that moment are the deepest, darkest shadows he has ever seen, coming off of buildings and cars and the skeletons of what were once trees in what has become an utter wasteland. This was a desert to begin with, but it still had the occasional thing. And then after a while, it only had test things. And now it barely has that, because test things are used until they can't be used anymore.
Yeah.
There was a 1-story shack. There was a 2-story house. There was a very pleasant Sears house that looks weirdly like the Red Lady's, only a slightly different color.
Mm-hmm.
That looked like it was a newer addition to the proving grounds, probably for a more recent test. That is close enough to the center, to the actual detonation, that it disappears into the brightness. It doesn't even get to cast a shadow.
Yeah.
And in David's ear, what he hears at that moment of detonation, and it is a long enough phrase that it should take several seconds, but it's more like it's a thought that occurs to him all at once, but it's in the Red Lady's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, "Cast off the illusion, hunter killer. It's how you survive."
The beginning of the sound that David makes is a negative. It's a and then the fire washes over him. I think I'll describe where David is at this,
So.
where how, what, and where David is. When David's senses return to him in whatever loose way you could say that, he is on fire. His flesh is melting and bubbling. Some of his bones have burst from the energy that they tried to absorb, and he is trapped underneath superheated, twisted metal wreckage. The truck from earlier has been flung, and David is again broken and burnt and trapped and screaming underneath terrible weights of metal. And this is the same kind of crucible that made the David. And he flashes back to that moment because he is forced to, because these two moments are too close together. And he remembers the inside of the tank. Body horror. He remembers the inside of the tank being splattered with twisted viscera and flesh that had been pulped by the impact. The way stringy bits and tendons and intestines wrapped around the inside of the tank, around the pieces that they held and guided and used to kill. And now their bodies are inextricably intertwined around it, and the way the two Davids dying and shredded, their half-gone souls stared at each other and begged each other not to die. And David screams under the truck, under the burning radioactive heat. And I guess he tries not to die. I guess we should probably roll some dice about it and see if he doesn't.
Probably.
Son of a bitch, he doesn't. I rolled a 15. So.
Oh, okay. In the back of his mind, or maybe in his ear, or maybe in his soul, or maybe in his nightmares, there is a whispered voice that just says, "Hunter killer."
David is making two sounds at once. One of them is a full body heaving end of life sob, the kind that someone makes when they try to hold their guts in or when they bleed out on a sidewalk. And one of those sounds is that hopeless sob, that deep down in the rotten guts noise. And the other one is a mechanical screeching metal sound that starts as a denial and ends in rage-filled abandonment, because this isn't David taking on his hunter-killer aspect. This is David abandoning the human lie that he doesn't want to, because there is a piece of David that would be happy to die here as a human.
Yeah.
But just like the first time he should have died, the Davids have people that require their care and their attention. And there are people for whom he must kill. And so, starting with the silver handprint burned into his chest, with the truth of his double dog tags, David abandons his humanity. He is a humanoid made of Buckminster fullerene, made of sintered titanium, made of graphene and depleted uranium. And there are dials and gauges inside him that glow with freshly painted radium numbers. And the hand that digs into the almost molten metal of the truck and pushes it as if doing kind of almost as if just using a weightlifting bench, and pushes it away and angles it and props it over to the side, is segmented and burnt black, like all of the candlesticks in a burned out church. And he rolls over and starts crawling away from the blast, screaming, but alive, for a given value of alive.
And in front of him, his own shadow seems to grow. And it takes a second to fully materialize that there is another creature here. I wouldn't go so far as to say another living creature on either count, but there is something that is coming towards him out of the blinding brightness that is behind him, and it is casting a shadow around him, engulfing his own. And there is a scream, a screech, an ear-splitting sound that is many voices all at once, or many mouths on the same creature, but it is not human. It is not anything close to human. In fact, the closest thing is a pig.
Ugh. I know that sound. Ben knows that sound.
It's a bad sound.
Yeah, it really is.
Pigs scream, and it is a horrifying sound. And this is all of them.
In this moment, David's only emotion is hate. He hates himself. He hates his body. He hates what he's given up. He hates that he's survived again. He hates the Red Lady. He hates Matthew for not letting him die in the Savages of Gaia when the angels started to tear him apart. Everything he can think of, he hates. And so when he notices the shadow behind him and he turns around and beholds a silhouette of horrors, in David's mind, that almost human scream is his own. And he thinks to himself, if I can kill it, that'll make everything better. It's not a sane thought. It is not at all a thought of a creature with a healthy and well balanced mind. But the thing that he thinks is, if I kill it, if I break it, if I ruin it, it will be the totem of everything that I hate, because it is the only thing I can see.
It has so many legs that are going out at so many angles. It's a wonder it can walk at all. And some of them are more humanoid and some of them are more porcine. And it has guts and intestines and ribs rippling up into... It doesn't have one face. It has 8 or 9 parts of faces, of pig faces. It has some vicious teeth, and it has some angry eyes. And the noses, the snouts would almost be funny if they weren't attached to this thing that was created or destroyed or perverted or just let through the door. And all mouths that it has, all eyes that it has lock on David, and all of its mouths scream again. And it knows that hate, and it feels it too.
Yeah. David screams back with the sound of an air raid siren, with the sound of artillery falling, with the sound of trenches collapsing in on the men inside them, and leaps to kill everything he hates.
Give me a roll.
Yeah. I'm going to do a violence about it.
That's probably a good idea.
I'm going to do a whole ass violence about it.
It's pretty reasonable considering the situation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And the hunter-killer gets a 17 on engage in combat.
Oh, okay. All right.
So he does okay.
He begins to tear it apart with his bare hands, or what were hands within the illusion.
Yes.
And it is...
They're the thick wedges that he was going to use on the Red Lady. Those big, heavy, chisel, body-puncturing claws.
And it is blood and viscera and ichor that is not normally part of a mammalian body. And it is the squelching of eyeballs and the shrieking of some of the mouths, but not others. The unity that the mouths held before has shattered, and now it is pieces. And the screams are from all around its body. They're all different. They're all cacophonous. and they are all angry and terrified and dying. And at that point, David feels a hand on his shoulder, and he is wrenched, I don't want to say off of, I'm going to go with out of this piggy thing. And
Yes.
he is pulled up and out and a few steps back. And were it anyone other than David, they would probably lose their balance and hit the ground, but he sort of maintains it. And he is twirled around to see something that bears a vague similarity to a human, or maybe did once. It also has too many legs and too many arms, and they're not all the same size. Some of them are small and deformed as if it was a birth defect, and some of them are long, too long. And it comes to a neck and a head, but the head looks like it was 3 heads smashed together. There is a full face on one side that is missing all of its skin and it's all teeth. There's a full face on the other side that's missing its skin and all of its teeth. And then in the center, there's one eye and parts of a mouth. So all put together, it kind of makes 3 mouths.
Yeah. Ugh.
And it also roars.
David is going to be haunted by the way he feels in this moment, because the reason he unleashes merciless, shredding carbide hell on this creature is because it pulled him out of the body, and because it is made out of meat and he isn't. And that injustice needs to be annihilated. And he does some fucking annihilating.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I rolled a 15.
Oh, man. He absolutely does some annihilating.
His combat's 5.
Oh.
Like, he's a hunter killer. He just, he's Lipton Cup of murder.
That's the boy.
Yeah.
He aims for that center eye and tears apart from there.
Yeah.
And whatever that creature was, it's not anymore.
No.
Was it ever human? It's a great question. It's got too many everything.
Yeah. It has a plethora.
Yeah. And once he thinks he might be free of that, what look like chitinous, too long fingers or perhaps scorpion tails grab him by the ankle as something is crawling out of the ground and trying to crawl up him.
Okay. David is going to use one of his combat maneuvers called "Don't fucking touch me."
Sure.
And he is unsettling parallel to the machinery that committed genocide at Matthew's command. The outside layers of his body flip and rotate in non-Euclidean ways and turn into gnashing, shredding, and miserable surfaces. and Jesus, and rolls a 16.
Oh,
so those are the
okay.
good dice. We're keeping those for werewolf. Those are
All right. So
we're keeping
whatever
those for
that
killing
was,
people later.
an arm, a hand, a set of insectile proboscis isn't anymore. Whatever that was, it does not get to anymore. And as he is able to get out of this, well, destroy this thing's grip and back away, the rest of it unearths itself. And it may once have been a cockroach or a beetle or something. And now it is impossible to tell what, if these were supposed to be front pincers or something, but it is missing one of its appendages. And so it kind of twists itself because it has eyes, but it moves them to a different part of its shell, its iridescent purple sheened shell, to make other limbs its front limbs. And with all of its joints, it is reaching forward with what are now 2 front limbs towards David.
David hates that a lot. Like, not only is he just still encompassed by the annihilating rage that he's been dealing with, he also just, he nopes at it. Like that creature actually, not only is he just in a paroxysm of just, I almost want to say like dysmorphic rage, because so much of this is because of his body and how much he hates it and how much he wishes it was different. But he's just like, that's too fucking gross. Like, he's just like, that's too spooky, that's too ooky. Like, he doesn't say it out loud, but there's just a part of him. And I think the only thing that he actually says, which is the first things that are close to words that he said since the bomb went off, is just this kind of low, almost grunted, just like, "Ha-uh."
Reasonable.
And reaches to where one of his lungs used to be and pulls out the gun. Capital T, capital G.
Yeah.
And tries to unload onto it and rolls a 9.
Ooh.
Because I rolled a fucking 4. I rolled a 1 and a 3 at 2 brute.
Oh my goodness.
Those dice are in jail now. So
9 is no.
9 is critical failure.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 is no and. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you go over for me what happens when you get a critical failure like this? What are the options?
Well, I will read to you engage in combat.
Sure.
And then also understand that it is, please reference every critical botch. What happens if you roll more 1s than successes? Whatever charts you have for reference in your gaming life, that is that.
Yeah.
Your attack doesn't go as anticipated. You might be subjected to bad luck, miss your target, or pay a high price for your assault. The GM makes a move.
Sure. How do you feel about taking some damage?
He will absolutely. I don't really think that how I feel about it is involved at this point. I think that he is just going to try to endure some harm.
I think that seems reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. Now I need to know the harm rating on the attack. Your average weapon, like handgun, club, sword, is a 2.
Okay.
And it goes up to,
Okay. I'm gonna go with a 3. I don't know if
Okay.
I'm being overdrawn or conservative on that, but we want to tell a cool story and hopefully not murder this important NPC, because Ilan will be very upset with me if I do that.
Oh, David has the same rules if he doesn't die until I say he dies.
Aces.
That the PCs do, as far as I'm concerned. Well, because it's all or nothing, because it is Vegas, baby. So we're either winning or losing. Is
All right.
I totaled another 15. So he rides out -3.
Yes.
So I rolled a 10, +5 turns into a 15, -3 turns into a 12.
Okay.
So the injury throws you off balance, you lose something, or you receive a serious wound, and the GM gets to pick.
Ooh. For this one, I'm going to go with thrown off balance, because this Starship Troopers reject horrible bug monster is it's coming for him, and it is able to get inside his personal bubble and avoid the gun while also trying to go for his torso and head with these two front appendages, while also coming in with a third one that's like a praying mantis arm. It looks like a buzzsaw made of bug, and it wants to remove that head. And I think it takes David to the ground with it. It's a tackle. It's a big bug tackle.
Okay. He is absolutely, not only is he knocked off balance, but he is knocked off balance.
Mm-hmm.
This probably is the moment where kind of his berserk all hate kind of gets knocked around.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question, I don't know.
Okay, then we'll make this
like that.
We'll make this cool.
Yeah.
I asked a question about numbers, and numbers don't matter when this is NPC theater. We're telling a story. Yeah, in that case, this is the first non-mammalian monstrosity that has come at him. So
yeah,
it's a bit of a surprise.
It's a bit of a squick. He gets a pretty heavy squick about it.
Yeah, I can't blame him.
Yeah, and so I think prone on the ground, I don't think he's going to try to get up in as much as he's going to try to get under. So I think that what he's going to try to do is to kind of shimmy, scramble, maybe use one of these limbs as a point of leverage and get himself at what he hopes is a soft underbelly. Maybe. These dice are...
They giveth and they taketh away.
Yeah, they yeeteth and they yoinketh. Well, you never heard that before.
I have not. What'd you roll?
So I rolled a 17. So he does. He does. He gets over 15.
Yeah,
he does by a lot, and, by a measurable volume.
Yeah, he finds something. It's hard to tell if it's soft, but it is certainly weaker. And so, if he wanted to get in there with hands or wedges or gun, or he has found the weak spot on this critter.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck it is. Like, it's not where it should be if this was an actual insect, but he found it.
Yeah, well, nothing is.
No.
It is an entire slab of shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So he gives it the smug treatment and just shapes his hand into a spearhead, not physically alters it, but just takes what's there already and shapes it into a spearhead, and just jams it underneath that armored plate and pulls. If you've ever seen someone who enjoys being physically fit, like grab the door frame and just do one of those, just like do, like one of those, like, I just like using my muscles push-ups. It's that. He just jams his hands in and pulls either himself up or the creature down or both. But the overall goal is to lever open this weak spot more.
Oh, the screech that it makes is possibly even more upsetting than all the pigs. Because it in no way is even remotely related to mammals. And the ichor that comes from it it's hard to tell in the light because we're still in this eerie, overbright, violet toned world. But it is probably inky black or a very, very dark green. And it is everywhere. And this creature tries to back away, but can't because David is holding it in place as it dies.
Yeah. Give it the old Shai Halud.
It does not like it.
And I think David's fury at this is enough that I think he actually would either like fully attempt to tear off that chunk of carapace for like to allow some disemboweling to happen, or depending on scale, will just reach his arm up into the thing and just pull everything he can reach out.
Yeah.
Just in big handfuls, like weeding the yard.
Yep. And it dies.
It do.
It's not pretty.
No.
And as that sound, it doesn't fade into the distance. It fades because it doesn't have the strength to make the sound at that volume anymore. And
yes.
It's weird because the eyes continue to glow after it has stopped making that sound, which usually on a human, you see the light leave their eyes. And with this creature, they still glow. So, but it stops moving and it goes limp, which is good because there's another shadow coming out of this overwhelming brightness. And this one is weird because it actually looks kind of normal. It is a man who was once in extremely good shape, who has let that go as he aged. And he's fully naked. He has wild gray hair and wild eyes and blood dripping down his face as if he has torn into something.
Okay.
And it is a figure that plagued the nightmares of a painter in Spain 100 years before. This is Saturn after he has devoured his son.
Okay.
And this man, who is just slightly larger than a human man, is reaching for David sorrowfully, as if David is Saturn's son and he is so sorry for what he did.
Every David hates his father. It's one of the things that unifies them is that every David hates his father. Farm David enlisted to get away from the farm because ever since he was a little kid, he was told, like, someday all this will be yours. But it wasn't I am leaving you my life's work, like to carry on in glory. It was, this farm is an inevitability. And the other David, the servant, he hated his father because he never had a choice over who he was going to be. His life path was chosen for him from the moment of conception. The minute anyone thought that his mother was pregnant, his entire life had been decided. He did not get to take his first breath in a world where he was free to choose. And so when this vaguely father figure reaches out as if to apologize, and I got to tell you, Samara, for a minute I thought you were describing Old Man Van Horst, because the beginning of that description was going to be the same, and I was like, you absolutely fucking did not do this.
I didn't, but now I wish I did. I was just excited about Goya.
I'm glad you didn't, because there's some meta plot issues that would cause big havoc. And so when this father figure reaches out to seemingly apologize, what David wants to do is to like reach out and grab his shoulder as if they were going to embrace and apologize. And he is just going to pound his other hand right through their sternum with those backhoe. Because that's the word I was trying to find earlier. Those big backhoe chisel fingers of his.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like, do I have opinions on gene stealers? Yes, I do. So rolled an 8 plus 5 because he is a human disaster. He's an inhuman disaster. So that's a 13. So yes, but. You're subjected to a counterattack. You do less damage than intended. You lose something important. You expend all your ammo. You're beset by a new threat, or you'll be in trouble later on. Are the explanations in the engage in combat list.
Okay. All right. He succeeds in destroying this personification of nightmare that Goya decided was Saturn. But he isn't paying attention to his back. No. And there is a set of jaws with razor sharp teeth that come in between the legs and clamp down on one thigh from behind.
Oh no. All right. David, probably with his hand still stuck in rib cage, is very unhappy in this moment.
Yeah, I imagine.
And yeah. So should I be rolling to endure harm? Because you sure as shit isn't avoiding it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a 3 on this one as well.
Oh, okay. So that total is a 10. So, and then you subtract the harm. So that turns into a 7. So big fail on endure harm.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing
the injury
he doesn't
is
have blood right now.
overwhelming. Yeah. You choose if you are knocked out. The GM may also choose to inflict a serious wound, receive a critical wound, but may continue to act. If you already have a critical wound, you may not choose this option again, or die. Just die. D-I-E, period. They even punctuated it just to make sure you get it.
Great. So,
blood, and death.
What would you like to choose?
I think he's going to take a critical wound, but be able to continue to act.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he is desperately, dangerously hurt by whatever's behind him, but he can still keep moving.
Sure.
Yeah.
That thing that is behind him is trying to yank him to the ground. and wants to tear him apart. And that thing is vaguely related to a crocodile, maybe. It is again one of these creatures with too many heads, too many eyes, too many teeth, rows and rows and rows of teeth, like a shark, but in the mouth of something more reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
And it wants to chew this man's to bits.
Yeah, and I think that it actually, whatever David has for critical components on the inside of his thigh have been severed and damaged, and he is leaking. And he is, at this point, desperation is setting in. Like, he's been hit a couple times. He hasn't really felt it, but this is something that kind of, I don't want to say made him feel mortal, but made him aware that he can die. That kind of like, oh shit. And so what he does, what he wants to do is, well, let me roll dice about it, and then we'll describe it and see what if it works. So I rolled a 6, so +5 because his combat his violence is too big. So he gets a yes, but. So what he wanted to do was to grab the back of this creature's skull and use his own thigh as a lever to pull the top of their skull off. I'm a blast in combat.
Well, it kind of works. It works in the sense of that skull is gone. Yeah. But and as an added bonus, whatever is leaking out of him is pretty caustic. So this crocstrosity doesn't like that either. But it's got other heads. And it yeah. And they're also coming for him.
I accept that. Okay. So what do you want to do?
It wants to try and go for a shoulder.
Okay, so
as this head's a little higher than the other head was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think at this point he's really, I don't even think he's going to try to do damage at this point. I think he just wants to get away.
Okay.
Because at this point in David's head, it feels like whatever is happening is accelerating. Like that was just the piggy monster was made out of stuff that's around. And then the next thing was made out of maybe stuff that's around. And then like each thing that pours out of this like frozen moment of reality fissioning is getting worse. And so he's like, I need to get away and at the very least catch my breath and reset. So I think I'm going to try to avoid harm for the
Makes
action.
Sense. Yeah.
And okay, good. I think I might dial David's violence down, David's combat down, because 5 is mathematically bonkers. And I didn't think about like the statistics of that number.
Yeah.
I just looked at other creatures in the book that had a violence of 5 and was like, that feels like something that David could like WrestleMania. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't think about the dice and that number because that's a fucking experience. But I rolled an exactly a 15, so he emerges completely unharmed.
He sure does. And he is able to get a few steps back and away. And if he is in a form that needs to take a breath, he has the moment to do so. Because the creature that was coming for him, like, is dealing with the loss of one of its heads. And there is ichor and madness spurting from that. And then his own caustic juices are eating away at this reptilian flesh and showing organs and bits and bobs and things underneath. And it also screams. That's my theme of the evening, these creatures' screams. And they get less and less recognizable as screams. This one is almost nails on a chalkboard. It is so far away from anything on God's green earth that makes sounds that it's getting into completely inorganic frequencies.
Yes.
And it lumbers towards him. But David notices, as if from a fairy tale, he can start to see through it all of a sudden. As if not like he bore a hole in it, which would be reasonable. As if it is starting to disappear.
David does not have a magical mind. Like whatever thing like Crowley and Parsons have, he doesn't. He does not think mystically. So his response is not like, oh, something obscure is happening. He's just like, fucking what now? Because his first thought is like, great, it can turn invisible. Great, perfect, great. I love it.
What a tactical mind he has.
Yeah, he's a very very well grounded, our hunter killer.
So what does he want to do about it?
I think that with the critical wound that he has, he's in like critical wound is a problem, is a big problem. And I think that he's actually going to be the equivalent of exhausted for a minute.
Okay.
And he was like, if this thing is going to turn invisible and try to kill me while it's invisible, I need to catch my breath because this is going to be a scramble. So I think he just kind of like, he does the Wolverine hunch in the comic where like the shoulders are forward and the arms are down. And he's just like panting in that, like, I'm exhausted, but I am absolutely willing to keep going sort of, shredded and tired pose.
Yeah. And the creature goes to take a swipe at him with one massive, too many clawed hand appendage. And by the time it reaches him, it passes straight through him.
That's not what he thought was going to happen. That is not at all what he thought was going to happen. And so he probably has like a startled twitch, because I think he just zoned out for a minute. I think that's actually pretty much what happened. It's just like, it's going to be invisible. Great. Now it's going to be invisible. What? It's just irritation and confusion. And he looks down and like feels his chassis, looking for the terrible disemboweling damage to match the damage done to his leg.
Mm-hmm.
And probably doesn't find it, huh?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
The creature bellows again, but it sounds like it's coming through a long pipe.
Okay.
Like it's at the other end of a hallway or down a well.
Okay. Is the detonation fire starting to go out?
It is.
Okay.
The shadows are getting lighter because the rest of the world is getting darker again. It's not that hyper bright, hyper Vanta black that it was before.
Yeah. And I think David just slumps to the ground, like slumps to his knees and just kind of collapses on his knees and just kind of stays there as he watches the world fold itself back together.
Mm-hmm. This creature slowly vanishes before his eyes. And if he looks up, now that the light is changing, there were others. And they were all manner of strange and abnormal and wrong. And they're all doing that. But not the dead. They're still there. Their tear doesn't get sewn back up. But some of them are departing again. And it takes him a moment to realize that where he has slumped to his knees, the corpse of the man who might be Saturn, one eye is looking right up at him. It's dead. There is no light left in it, but it is frozen. That expression, that blood-caked rictus of regret. Sorrow.
David does not wish to be perceived at this moment. He does not like the idea of anything seeing him until he is ready to be seen. Because part of how he is coping in this moment is he is kind of short-circuiting his own proprioception, your sense of self, the thing that gives you location data on your own body.
Mm-hmm.
He is essentially short-circuiting that because he doesn't want to think about the information he's getting. Like, he's going to accept it. He is boiling his own frog very slowly. So, but there's this just blurt of like, how dare you? Like this aggrieved anger, like, how dare you see me? And so when he puts his finger right into the corpse's eye, he's probably still hot enough to like cause a bit of a sizzle.
Yep.
And he takes it out and sighs.
And the world is on fire all around him. But at this point, that and the moon are the sources of light now.
Good.
But the radiation's still there.
Yeah. David looks up and to the left, kind of in the spot where he thinks about the Red Lady being for communication, and just looks up at that spot, which clearly isn't the right spot. I'm sure he's not seeing it. He's not understanding any of this correctly, but he just kind of gives it a glare. And like smacks the side of his head next to where the acupuncture was, and hopefully still is. Like, he smacks it like you smack a radio. Mm-hmm. Like he gives it percussive maintenance and just. Are you there?
Well done, hunter killer.
Well done. Okay. I hope that was enough teacups.
It was. Thank you.
Good. All right. Do you have a plan for the radiation? Or do I just glow the whole way home?
Well, you'll need to get out of the proving grounds. And I don't recommend doing that within the bounds of the illusion. I have someone waiting for you if you like, or you can drive yourself.
Who is waiting for me?
Our friend Stephen, who is the truck driver, who helped pick up the Fresnel lens. And she says that in such a way where it's clear he's more than he seems.
You know what? Fuck it. I can see so far into my leg that I don't want to drive. I can see too much of the inside of my leg.
Well, if you can get to Steven, he can get you to me, and I'll fix you right up.
Fine. And just that, like, the fine is just that, like, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know. Like, it's not like an untrusting fine. It's a, I know you did it, but I've accepted that you did it, and I'm just going to try to move on. Like, you betrayed me, and now I just have to deal with the consequences rather than focus on that betrayal. And so he
Turnabout's a bitch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's definitely just kind of like, okay. Yes, that is my own petard, I feel. Yes, very good. I understand. Yes. That burning sensation. My own petard. Yep.
Aha.
Thank you for the hoist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he levers himself up and kind of looks down at his leg and has a moment where once again he kind of struggles with what he's seeing. And he mumbles to himself a lot as he goes through some kind of a mental process where he's just like, you've got to see what it is, because if you can't see what it is, you can't do first aid. So you just got to fucking look at it. And if you look at it, you'll be able to do something about it. And he looks down at his leg and he sees the damage, and he can see all the tensioned cables and the fluid tubes and everything else that has been shredded. And he flashes back to more than one time that he's seen a human body in similar states of disassembly. And he contemplates the value of a tourniquet and then bitterly chuckles and realizes that it's pointless, and just picks up a big handful of this terrifyingly sterile sand, the worst sterile, and just packs it in, and just essentially just makes the worst two-part epoxy in the history of mankind, and just packs his wound with it, and stands up and knows that that's not making it any better, but maybe he'll just stop leaking.
It works.
And mentally finds, well, let's see if he can find Steven. This is going to be a harder roll. Okay. Partial success. Got a 12.
Okay.
So I imagine that he finds Steven, but it takes a little bit too long.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer than he would like.
Yeah. He's unthrilled by the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great time.
No. The good thing about Steven, though, since David is seeing through the illusion at the moment, is that David is not a regular human being. Like, he looks like a sturdy trucker fellow, but also he is some sort of very sturdy creature. And it's unclear in the dark and in David's injured state what he is made of, but he very surprisingly gently lifts David in all of David's metal weight and places him in the back of the truck, and thinks for a second and goes into the cab of the truck and comes out and offers a pillow.
David chuckles way too bitterly about it and takes the pillow, like, sure, just in that kind of like, I have abandoned reason has been abandoned. I'm just going to find what comforts in the absurd I am able to find.
Yeah. And
so he takes the pillow and he puts it behind his head and immediately crushes it flat.
David makes sure that he's safe in the back of the truck. He closes it up, he gets in, and he drives away from the proving grounds.
Yeah. And David just stares into the sky on the back of the truck, and
it's a very pretty sky.
Yeah. And he remembers more than one David laying on their backs, staring up at more than one piece of the sky. And he just lets them happen. And just kind of lets the memories double and triple and quadruple in his mind and assemble themselves in whatever way they're going to, because he's just too tired and too hunter-killer to try to turn all of that into a cohesive storyline anymore.
Thank you
Everybody
so much,
drink
Eric.
your water. It's either too hot or too cold wherever you are. Either way, drink some water about it.
Take your meds, pet a cat.
Yeah, touch some grass. And we will see you very soon. So thank you and good night.